Shabbat Shalom, Parashat Matot. We are introduced during this parsha to an interesting battle, a battle of vengeance, the vengeance against the people of Midian. The Midianite women, as we were told in the last two parashot, seduced the Jewish people into idolatry, into fornication, and caused a great disaster in which 24,000 people were killed in a terrible plague. And it is now time to take vengeance upon these people. It is curious because we are introduced to a very rare moment in Chumash. A rare moment that becomes far more profound and explicit during the next Sefer Dvarim, which we will talk about with God's help in 2 weeks. We are introduced in this parsha to a momentary event in which Moshe Rabbeinu explicitly and directly changes the commandment that God gives him towards the Jewish people. God gives Moshe Rabbeinu a very clear commandment. Go speak to the people. It is now time to take vengeance. Nekom nikmat b'nei Yisrael me'et hamidyanim, achar te'asef el amecha. Go and take the vengeance of the Jewish people, of Bnei Yisrael, the sons of Israel, from the Midianites, and then it will be time for you to join the heavenly courts, because you will no longer be amongst the living. Moshe turns to the people and says quite explicitly, Heichaltzu me'itchem anashim latzava. Choose people from within you to the army, and we will stop upon the word that we just used in a moment. V'hiyu al Midian, and they should be ready to go launch a battle against Midian. Latet nikmat Hashem b'Midian, in order to take God's vengeance upon Midian. Not the vengeance of the Jewish people, but rather the vengeance of Midian, of God. So why does Moshe Rabbeinu change the language that God gives him? Chazal teach us that Moshe knew all too well the nature of the Jewish people. This young generation that grew up in the desert, with all of his difficulties with them, had a very strong bond with Moshe. The mere thought of Moshe Rabbeinu no longer leading them petrified the people. With all of the greatness of Yehoshua and the great potential that is vested in him, nonetheless, they definitely did not want to let Moshe Rabbeinu go. They were all too aware that this was Moshe Rabbeinu's last Torah, the last final commandment that he has to fulfill. God explicitly said, fight this war, and that will be it. So Moshe was worried that if he told the people that this was a vengeance that was their vengeance, they would forgo it. Oh, our vengeance, we could do without that. And they simply would not launch the battle. So Moshe Rabbeinu says to them, my dear children, this is not just your vengeance. This is God's vengeance. And God's vengeance we must stand up for. We must avenge. The verb that is used in order to describe Moshe Rabbeinu's expectations for them is quite unique. It is so unique that it is pivotal to understand the nature of the word in order to understand the other big story in our parasha. The word that Moshe Rabbeinu uses is Heichaltzu me'itchem. Heichaltzu, the word chalutz, has become rather common in modern Hebrew language, particularly in anything that has to do with the early days of the foundations of the state. Today we have swapped that word for other words that have deeper political connotations. The word chalutz, or as the early pioneers of this country were called, the chalutzim. The chalutzim were those that stepped up to the plate, took tremendous risks upon themselves, but understood that in the name of ideology they need to step up and move forward. They need to be able to lead the camp. This is what Moshe Rabbeinu was expecting of the Jewish people here. Yes, I know, my children, this is not a battle you really want to fight because you know what will come right after. But this is a battle we must fight, and I'm asking you to step up with great courage. I want you to lead the camp. I want you to become chalutzim. Heichaltzu. This is exactly what we ask God in every time we bench on Shabbat. Ratzeh v'hachalitzenu b'yom HaShabbat hazeh. We use this word in modern Hebrew also to explain extraction, to get out of trouble, and to stretch our bones, to lachlotz, to be able to release the pressures that we're upon. but that is only in order to give us the energies and courage to be able to step forward. Later on in the parasha, we hear a story that is rather perplexing, both in terms of the request that is presented, but more so in terms of the radical and difficult reaction that Moshe Rabbeinu has. We learn about the tribes of Reuven and Gad, and half of the tribe of Menashe, who come, actually, they were joined later, who come to Moshe Rabbeinu with a very interesting request. They say, Moshe, we conquered this entire area of the eastern side of the Jordan River, and we have to decide what to do with it. Now, clearly, we all know that the holiness of Eretz Yisrael lies beyond the Jordanian River, where we are all destined to go. But, we are very large tribes. We have huge quantities of flock, very big herds, and we have tremendous needs. And this land is very lush and plentiful. Perhaps our tribes can settle down right here in this land, which will be part of the future land of Israel, and we will live here. Of course, we will join the battle. We're not going to stay here and let everybody else fight the war without us. Not only will we join the battle, say the children of Reuven and Gad, but we intend to be the pioneers of the battle. We intend to be right up front, in front of everyone. Anachnu nechaletz chushim lifnei bnei Yisrael. We will stand fast before everyone else and lead this campaign. Moshe Rabbeinu reacts